Hello and welcome to Rage Quit. My name is Jay and today I want to talk about the cover rule in Warcry because essentially it's getting a lot of hatred online, debating whether or not it's a good rule or a bad rule. I personally think it's perhaps sometimes a little bit counterintuitive, but I want to talk about what it is, the reasons people are saying it's counterintuitive, should it be FAQ'd, all that kind of stuff. We will talk about in this video. If though at the end of this video you like the video, do press like, it really does help. And if you're not subscribed and you're interested in both Warcry and other skirmish games or one or the other, then please do consider subscribing as it really does help. I have the Warcry rulebook right in front of me. The cover rule, even though it is simple whilst written, is perhaps a little bit counterintuitive. I'm pretty sure in my game against Mark I got this completely wrong, so I'm going to read it first. And then I've got some pictures on my computer that we're going to go through and talk about why it's cover, why it's not cover, and then we'll talk about whether or not it's good or bad. So let's read it first. Thrilling video right now, thrilling. So in the terrain section it says basically, an obstacle by the way has to be more than 1 inch tall for it to count as terrain in terms of cover. Anyway, when an attack action targets an enemy fighter that is within half an inch of an obstacle, the target fighter of that attack action receives the benefit of cover if the fighter making the attack action is closer to that obstacle than they are to the target fighter. And you gain one plus cover if that is the case. So it basically says if I make an attack against a unit and I'm closer to that obstacle than I am to that unit, then the defender in that situation gets cover. And that intuitively sort of makes sense for situations like this, right? Let's explain what this very complicated diagram is. The A is the attacker, the D is the defender, and the terrain grey bar is terrain, right? And I think this is possibly what the rule was intended for. These are the circumstances that whoever designed this was like, yep, this is what we want. And it's like a very quick way of explaining and how to get to this situation, right? Because let's have a look. A is closer to the terrain whilst making an attack against the defender. My voice is going, I do apologise. Now, let's presume that the attack here is within an inch. And not in reality, you wouldn't be able to attack over an inch if you've not got an attack that's over an inch, etc. But let's just presume that you can attack in this situation. Yes, A, the attacker, is closer to the terrain, the obstacle, than they are to D. Therefore, D, the defender, would get cover in this situation. And as I said, I think that's essentially what it was designed for. But it can lead to other, strange anomalies, shall we say? So let's say we get rid of this attacker and we put in this attacker, right? So A now attacks the defender. The defender is within half an inch of the terrain. The attacker, there's no cover in this situation because the attacker is closer to the defender than they are to the terrain. No cover. With me so far? That makes sense. That's the rule, basically. You've got to be closer to the terrain than you are to the defender, and then the defender gets cover. But then let's have a look at a situation like that. So now the attacker is closer to the terrain than they are to the defender, and now the defender will get cover in this situation, which, I mean, for millimeter difference with no obstacle in between them, people are saying, it's a little bit weird because there's no obstacle between you. It's strange, and the reason people then, the counter example to that is, just imagine that you're so close to the obstacle that the wall's getting in your way and you can't properly attack. The defender gets to dash around you because you're so close to the wall. You can think about it any way you like, but essentially this is the rule. And then there's a couple of, that could even lead to, not stranger examples, but a couple of interesting things. So here the attacker is obviously closer to the terrain than they are to the defender. Makes sense. But you could essentially be equal distance away from the Right, let's imagine that's equal distance. I haven't done the measurements, but I eyeballed it. Right, let's say that the attacker here is same distance away from this attacker to this defender. Now in this case, the top one here, the defender here would get cover if you make this attack, right? Whereas if you make this attack, the defender would not get cover, because of the positioning of A being closer to the defender than it is to the terrain. Does that all make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially that is the rule as far as I can figure out. And if I'm just completely wrong, please let me know, as it will be quite embarrassing. But essentially the rule is if the attacker is closer to the terrain than they are to the defender, and the defender is within half an inch of the terrain or obstacle, they get cover. So in situations like this, the top one does, the bottom one doesn't. And then in situations like this, well, it's a bit weird to go over it, that one is cover, that one is not cover, and of course the classic example is the one on the other side of the terrain. Now, I think people have a bit of difficulty with something like that one, or perhaps this one, where you're closer to the terrain than you are to the defender, but it sort of feels like maybe you shouldn't get cover there because there's nothing directly between you and the defender, and some people are having a bit of a problem imagining that. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit strange. This wouldn't be cover, this would be cover. So like it's unusual. I think it's slightly counterintuitive in that sense. I think it was initially probably designed as a simple way of clarifying that, but I could be completely wrong about that. And as I said, you can imagine it sort of any way you want. I've got a wall here, which you can't see. A wall here. If I was attacking, maybe my arm's going to get hit by this wall or what have you. You can rationalize it any way you like. But I think you say to most people in a war game, you have clear line of sight with nothing in between you, and yet the defender is gaining an advantage by simply being close to a wall, but you are slightly closer to the wall than they are. It sort of allows you to game the system. The best thing you could do would be to just less than half an inch away from the terrain, because either if your opponent will be equal distance away, well, I know cover, you can't really do anything about that, but if they're ever so slightly closer to that terrain than you are, than they are to you, you're gonna get the 1+ toughness. I gotta say, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it. Right? I don't like it. I think when you see, I just think it looks weird. Right, and I understand. Yeah, I can. As I said, I can understand. I've not got the room to swing my weapons or what have you. But I think when you look at it on the table, you have a model directly opposite a model, but it turns out you're an inch away. They're half an inch within terrain. You're half an inch close to that terrain. They get covered, but there's like just between you and half an inch. It just feels weird, and I think that's catching a lot of people out, basically. I know like Andy made videos about people getting the rule wrong, and I think I'd got it wrong straight in my first video, and I was like, oh, that's embarrassing for me. But I think it will catch a lot of people out just simply because it's not the way you expect it to work. And I think it's your one's preconceived expectations of this rule that actually sort of means it's a bit of an issue. Because in most war games, if there's a clear line from you to them with nothing in between, it's no cover, right? It's no cover. Whereas in this game, it's a little bit more complicated than that. The rule I like in the sense that it's very well written, in that it's very simple. I do sort of feel like it was designed simply to have, if you had any kind of like intervening terrain, then obviously the person making the attack is going to be closer to that terrain than they are the defender. But the examples where it's like you're just next to a wall, I find a little bit I keep saying this word unintuitive. It's just strange, I think, and unusual. Now, the next question there is what should be done. Perhaps nothing. I don't have a massive problem with the rule. Like, I'm not saying we demand an FAQ, we demand change. I'm not really saying that, but I do think that it could get FAQ'd in the future because, as I said, it appears to be for one scenario, but it applies to other scenarios that were perhaps either unintended or they just weren't bothered because they just enjoyed the simplicity of the rule, which is fine. But I think it's just going to take a little bit of getting used to either way. If they are going to FAQ it and change it, I would very much like them to do it like nowish, because I don't want to get used to this rule and then have it change on me and be so confused in the future. I'm already confused now, basically. So it's not necessarily a problem. A lot of people are saying they're just not going to play with that rule. Like, oh, we're going to agree beforehand, we're not going to play with it. But I don't know. It's not unfathomable that there's reasons behind it. It's not completely illogical. It's just different from what a lot of war games that would and have done. So I don't necessarily agree with that part. I think maybe tournaments, it should just clarify that they're definitely going to play with it. Maybe not. As I said, the rule is pretty clear. Let me know your thoughts. I don't think this ruins the game or anything as dramatic as that, by the way. It does not ruin the game. It's just, I think, they've simplified the rules, and if you simplify the rules, the more you have to accept that it might be slightly unrealistic in some situations, and I think that's inevitable the more you simplify rules and make things easier and quicker. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. As I said, I don't think it ruins the game. It's just one slight thing that's tripping up a lot of people. And I can understand why. But let me know your thoughts. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? All that kind of good stuff. I'm using my DSLR for this, so hopefully the camera looks better. And I'll try and do this going a little bit more going forward, because I mean, you want to see this beautiful face. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'll go back to the low res one. Either way, have a beautiful day, and like and subscribe. As I said, if you're interested in Warcry, for sure, subscribe if you want to be notified when I make a video. That's what the bell icon does. I hate talking about that, but that's just the way it goes. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.